Okay, everyone, I hope you enjoyed listening to Anika and Stella. So we now move on with the second panel in English of the afternoon, and it's actually going to feature me. So I'm going to be moderating the panel, which is going to be fun. So we're going to talk about empowering industry growth with AI. So we here have Kunal, who's the country manager in LinkedIn Asia, and also Dominic, who's the CEO and founder of Packative. So Kunal and Dominic, if you'd like to come on stage, please, right now. Give them a round of applause. Thank you. So hello. Yes, great, they're working.
Hello, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So let's kick straight into it. Kunal, just a quick bio. Don't need to know sort of like your early childhood memories, but just
Right.
what are you working on now?
Right, 안녕하세요. My name is Kunal. As you can see, I've been with LinkedIn for over 10 years now, over a decade, worked in different markets, and currently managing the business for Korea and Vietnam, and very, very happy to be here to share what we are doing up here.
Okay, yeah. Dominic, if you can be equally concise.
Sure. 안녕하세요. So my name is Dominic. I'm the CEO of Packative. We are a packaging solution trying to revolutionize actually the whole industry. I have been in Korea for the last 13 years, and I'm actually also the first founder to have received one of the largest R&D grants here in Korea called TIPS.
Okay. So, Kunal, LinkedIn is all about talent. So how are you using AI to allow people, in particular startups, to find talent?
Lovely. You didn't read my mind. I wanted to talk about it. So yes, we are. At LinkedIn, our vision is to create economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce to simplify, help people find jobs and be productive. And over these years, we've actually evolved into a talent marketplace wherein we provide insights to organizations to not only find talent, but to map where this talent is. We're working with the government, but we just don't stop there. Like Joe said, we use a lot of AI. We are a Microsoft company, leverage AI in order to ensure we are relevant to you at every step of the way, and you, as consumers of the platform, find a lot of value in terms of how you can upskill yourself on a daily basis. So yeah.
Okay, and how are you using AI, Dominic?
So for us, it's a bit more tricky, but it also has something to do with the talents in general. So the packaging industry is something really old-fashioned, outdated. So one of our biggest problems what we have is talents. Talents in the packaging industry who have experience. So we need actually AI to fill this gap right now. So we use a lot of productive production calculations. We try to build a knowledge base with AI that makes it actually easier to onboard employees. And also we work on a solution for AI for generative design, which helps also designers in the future who are maybe more on like UX, UI-based designers to also have the knowledge and the ability of packaging and print design.
Sure. Well, when I speak with people who work in LinkedIn, they always talk to me about LinkedIn has a lot of users, but that they don't fully understand or use the power of the platform. So what are like the hidden parts of LinkedIn that we're not using that we should be using more?
Great question. So I've been with LinkedIn for a decade, as I said earlier, but there has been a lot of movement within the platform. So I think one of the things that people don't realize, being 1 billion members strong globally at this moment, LinkedIn is becoming so useful in the daily life. For example, if I throw some stats, by 2030, 70% of the skills that you use today for your job will change. So imagine how you can leverage a platform which is forward-thinking, mapping the skills at the country level, at the regional level. And I'll also pick up what Dominic said. We even help startups in order to find talent at a global marketplace. So when people use LinkedIn, they can use it for networking, which is basic, but I would say use it to find industry knowledge and be relevant in terms of what you're doing and how you want to create value for your organization or the work you do.
Okay, and Dominic, are you a power user of LinkedIn, or are you just sort of updates and connections and finding talent? Do you go in there every day?
Yes, I'm definitely on LinkedIn every day. LinkedIn is my #1 social media platform at the moment. So yeah, definitely I love LinkedIn. Thanks for that. We also use it for talent solutions, but it's more on like, so we have two parts. One is a really global part of our team, meaning like we have developers, we have an AI research team, and marketing and business in general, and then we have a bit of the traditional side of the operations, which is the packaging side. And for this one, so in general, we use LinkedIn especially for bilingual talents, sales, marketing, bilingual one. And this is my go-to platform for that one. Yeah.
I mean, one of the changes, I also use it every day. In fact, I was teasing Kamal about the limits to connections and, trying, like, when you have AWS people and you're asking them for, like, free credits, when you meet LinkedIn people, you ask them to increase the number. But I have noticed that there are more AI prompts appearing in the system. When you were once, there was basically when you wanted to post some writing or something like that, you just had to copy and paste in, whereas now you get an AI prompt, how can I help you write? Yeah. I mean, how are you finding that? Is that encouraging more people to write?
Yes, and it's very interesting, and I was talking to Dominic as well a week before. When we talk about AI, it's the most used term in this moment, but we're being a Microsoft company with Microsoft investment in OpenAI, what LinkedIn is doing is think about a platform where you come and you don't know what to do. To Joe's previous question, how can you create value and start learning from scratch? We have built an AI coach. What it means is when you come on the platform, it starts reading your profile and starts suggesting you where you should start, what you're doing and what are the skills coming up in your job, and you start learning from there on. One of the things that we say, AI will displace the jobs, but what people are not talking, how people can use AI in today's world and make more relevant for themselves in terms of their growth as well as the organization. And who better to trust, because it's a company, the company that's our parent company is Microsoft, and that's the most trusted company when it comes to AI and deep tech. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more AI will replace jobs in the sense of some jobs will go away, but new ones will be created, and that's it's interesting. I used to write a lot of things, and I kind of often wondered how many people were reading them and things like that. But then, of course, large language models came along and then sort of hoovered up all that. So, and they were able to, interpret and speak about me in a very positive way, even though when I was writing, I had no idea that this would ever happen. So, I'll come back to you in a second and I'll ask you that question. What should we be doing today to prepare for the future? But let me just continue the questions with Dominic. I mean, what do you, as you're the founder of the company, so what do you encourage your employers to do? Do you encourage them to post on LinkedIn? Do you encourage them to connect? I mean, what do they, if I asked any of your employees, what is your boss's favorite social media platform, would they all say LinkedIn?
Sorry, I would say no, actually, on this one. I think most of them would say Instagram. My employees are around like in the mid-20s, so Instagram is their go-to platform, of course. But one of the things, what I said from the beginning is you're at the start of your career. LinkedIn is growing in Korea a lot, so you should get a profile. You should start putting you out there. And I think this is highly important, actually. This is a global thing that has been around. I'm on LinkedIn maybe for the last 13 years already. I built my career basically on LinkedIn. So I highly encourage anybody, also our employees, to do this. They're doing it. I think they still need a bit more friends to join on the platform, and then it will work probably really well, yeah.
Yeah, just Kamal, could you just give a quick description of LinkedIn in Korea? And do you have the numbers, how many users, growth rate, just a kind of a broad description of your activity here?
Absolutely. So in Korea, we today have 4 million members. Overall, we have about 1 billion. We are growing year on year. We are seeing the activations happening. On a global level, we are adding 5 members a second. But in Korea, we are also going to the universities because we want to be relevant to the market. So what we are doing, we are going to universities, we are educating the students the value of the platform. Like you, Joe, you said people might not know in terms of what they can do on the platform. But apart from that, a shift that we have seen, tech companies were the first adopters to LinkedIn. But what we have seen over the last couple of years is conglomerates are also spending a lot with us in order to ensure that they have the right workforce across the globe in order to address the projects that they're doing. Yeah.
Okay, and let me go back to the other question that I was going to ask you. So what should all of us, and I include myself, I'm here to learn like everyone else, what should I be doing to prepare for how LinkedIn is going to look in the future?
Fantastic. So I think AI is here to stay. Our CEO, Ryan Roslensky, says a very beautiful thing. Even if people are not changing the jobs, your jobs are changing on you. So it's becoming very, very important to upskill. The word, again, got used a lot and abused a lot over years. But to put it simply, everybody has a job, and there are tasks that are defined in those jobs. So imagine if AI is there, it's just going to automate certain tasks out of it. To Joe's point earlier, when you go on the platform today, AI is starting to recommend immediately what you should look for because it reads your profile. It tells you what are the upcoming skills in these areas. So to answer your question on any member, when you go on AI, it starts suggesting you, these are the top skill in your industry, and you should start following these companies, you should start learning about them, and LinkedIn today is just not solving for hiring. We are an ecosystem. Right from planning, we do a lot of insights in terms of, we're working with governments in different countries, map the skills of the future, to ensuring that your people are relevant by providing the online learning space.
Yeah, Dominic, I'm going to ask you a recruiting question. LinkedIn, for whatever reason, is still the #1 way that our students look for jobs and even find jobs. You know, it's still a very, you know, we call it the toothbrush, you know, because it's something that you use every day. And LinkedIn Jobs is kind of the, people, when they even have like 10 minutes to spare, will often just browse it. So are you a kind of a believer in LinkedIn Jobs? Has it worked for you, or is it something that you plan on doing in the future?
I would say yes and no. On one side, there is a problem from the career perspective is you want to know the salaries in most of the cases, and this kind of is a trouble for us to post up all of the job applications because we have to show the salary. And this is one of a bit of a problem. I'm sure LinkedIn will work on that one in the future too. But when it comes to the outreach in general, what I do is I look for the people and I send them directly messages. I use the recruiter lite before in LinkedIn and really reach out to the people directly. And this works really well. So rather than going into like jobs post and job description, I'm just really searching the people I want to hire or who I could even work for. And those are the people I'm really reaching out then, yeah.
Yeah. I want to just move to you know, so-called cultural factors, and I'm very aware that when you talk about culture that, you know, it's not a one-size-fits-all. You can find extremes in every culture, but I'm curious to know and interested, you know, obviously Silicon Valley was where LinkedIn was created, where people are never slow to talk about their achievements. But in Asia, certainly drawing from the students I know, a lot of them are reluctant to sort of talk about themselves in that kind of way. Is that something that you find? Could you just talk to me about how people in Asia use LinkedIn differently versus how it's used, say, in the United States?
Great question. So even when I think about Asia, Singapore is a different bubble altogether. And we talk about Asia, it's a very diverse market. I mean, for me being an Indian, I've done 4 countries in Asia, which is Philippines, Thailand, Korea, and Vietnam. I always call myself the diversity hire. So I think one of the things that we are seeing in Asia, people don't open up, and talking a lot about themselves is like self-boasting at times, which people don't do. But what the platform is doing, as I said, we are going to universities and we're doing this activity across. We go to conglomerates because they are not the first ones to pick up the platform. We start educating their leadership teams in order to ensure that the message of ensuring everybody has an access to the platform goes across. We have heard stories, I'm not going to name the conglomerate, but we'll not allow our people to be on LinkedIn. Because if they are on LinkedIn, they will be poached. So we always say that people always look for an opportunity, but let them be on the platform. So what we are doing, we have a lot of champions in these countries which are becoming, I would not use the word influencer, but champions on the platform where they're sharing openly about their experiences in their own countries by using the platform, and we are encouraging more and more, and I think university students is a great place. I also have my friend Eric, who he's here, he spoke this morning as well.
Eric. Hi, Eric.
Who wrote a very beautiful book called Small Actions. And it starts by taking very, very small actions, and rest is, you will see the success yourself. So yeah, you're right, it's a very diverse region for us.
Yeah. Dominic, I'm going to ask you, but I'm interested not just in the experience in Korea, but also you know, back in Austria and things like that. I mean, what would you know between how LinkedIn is used in Austria and how it's used here in Seoul?
It's a bit hard for me to answer this because I haven't been to like the business world of Austria for the last 11 years, and I moved to Korea when I was pretty much like 23 years old. So it's a bit hard to actually understand Europe for me, even though I'm European, so I don't have that many insights on that one actually.
Yeah, but the same question I asked to Kamal. I mean, how do you find that your employees are modest about citing their achievements, or in a way that we all know people in Silicon Valley are not?
Yeah, I think in general, yes, it's something cultural here that you might not put up these achievements too much. This is also something that I'm struggling a bit on, like the leadership to make it happen. So we recently introduced like a kind of a kudos system, so employees reward employees, kind of. So I really want to motivate them actually to speak out more, share their accomplishments, use LinkedIn or any other platform to show what they're really proud of. But I think it's still a different social environment. It needs more outgoingness, I would say. I'm working hard on it, and it's not an easy thing, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things about Europe is, of course, we have this thing called GDPR, the data protection, and there's a sort of an internal saying that LinkedIn solves your GDPR problem because everyone is opt-in by definition. So you basically so something like LinkedIn Live works really well because you can post it out to the people and you can run the LinkedIn and they can opt in and there are no data protection issues. So, I mean, talk to me about is LinkedIn Live and other, I mean, everyone knows the core functionality, but I mean, that to me is something that works really well for us. Is that something that works really well for you as well?
Absolutely. The fact that you spoke about data privacy and data protection in today's world, it's becoming a concern. As an organization, actually, we are GDPR compliant across the globe. And when we talk to emerging markets in Asia as well, one of the concerns is always, yes, we will have access, but what happens to our data when we come on your platform? And there are a lot of data privacy things that members can control on the platform, what they want to make public and what not. But otherwise, LinkedIn, whatever's there on LinkedIn is public information. And that has been controlled. So LinkedIn Live is doing wonders of lately, wherein people are leveraging more and more. I think organizations are using. I actually wanted to add another point. There's a leading organization in Korea. So what they're doing in order to encourage people, they do a learning gamification for their people, and the leaders start posting for their people, this is our team and this is what they're doing. They realize these are the people that are the asset to the organization as compared to them being scared of them losing the job. So they're even using it via LinkedIn Live to talk about it.
Yeah, and what about you? Have you ever done a LinkedIn Live? Or is that something you would consider? Like it's
No, I haven't done it before.
Yeah, I know it can work really well because what is even just the Zoom link and all of it, just trying to get all that out. What's the link? What's the password? It actually works really well. In terms of it's really a one-click kind of solution, which is the kind of thing that we all want, and the control of it seems to be really good as well in terms of archiving the video and stuff like that. So it's a solution that works really well. I know you talked about the current CEO, but the past CEO, Jeff Weiner, was always very interested in writing. That was sort of his background and where he came from. Here we go. We're having microphone problems. But I was always sort of interested in the change between the new CEO. I mean, you said you've been there for 10 years. People are always reluctant to talk about the differences, but it's very much in the vogue now because Nike are changing their CEO, Starbucks are changing their CEO. We've seen Satya in Microsoft and things like that. So, I mean, has there been much of a change, from Jeff to the new CEO?
Interesting question, actually. I remember the day when Jeff was leaving and there was an all hands and we were in Singapore. It was a very emotional moment because Jeff always led from people first, and he always thought about people as well as how the product will evolve. Interestingly, Ryan started under Jeff as one of his first hires, and Ryan comes from a product background, so it was very clear where the organization is heading in the next wing. I think one of the things that has been core, and I feel blessed to work for LinkedIn, is that our culture and values have been the foundation of how this organization has been built up, and that actually addresses a lot of things. And Ryan actually is a wonderful, wonderful CEO. He's very action-oriented, but again, aligned with the culture and values. And you've been to our Ireland office, right?
Yeah.
One of the things with LinkedIn is no matter which office you go to, you have the same feel. People greet you in the same way. So, and that's exactly what we want to replicate on the platform. And being grateful, I think both the CEOs have doing They're different in the way they lead, but I think they're doing a great job. Yeah.
And can I ask you, I don't know whether you remember it, but having the billionth user, I mean, what was it? I mean, I guess you could see that you were coming up to it. Was there, and then internally, was there a lot of messages about it? Because I do know people who were LinkedIn users, but wouldn't have been aware of how many people were on the platform. But it's like the thing in the social network. You know what's cool? A billion.
Yeah.
So I mean, there are only 8 billion on the planet. So to have a billion people in your system, that's incredible. So can you just tell me, like, what was it like internally when you hit that metric?
Right. So in the organization, we've always been excited about hitting our 100Ks, 500Ks, because everybody used to get a cool T-shirt. Now that disappeared after a point in time, but I remember a few years back when our numbers were in some case and other social media was looking in millions and billions. I think our CEO at that time said, we are not in the race of numbers, we are in the race of producing quality, and quantity will come in a period of time. A billion was definitely something that we were aiming to achieve over a period of time, but it happened through organic growth, where people started realizing more value in the platform, and yes, it was celebrated. It's a big milestone for us. I think we were waiting for that 1 billion mark, and the mail came in the morning, and it was a celebratory moment across the organization. And we got a T-shirt this time.
Okay. That always, you got a T-shirt, you said, yeah?
We got it after a few 100Ks, yes.
Oh, wow, yeah, well, tech T-shirts, Are you a big fan of swag, Dominic? Is there like...
No. So my background is like programming. I have like the staff background, but I was not really into swag too much. I loved hoodies a lot, and I had some of this coding hoodies at the beginning, early stage of my career. Yeah.
Okay. So can we sort of like take like an offline conversation? So, Kamal, not that I'm sure you're humble enough to say there's always things you could do better. So Dominic, what could Kamal do for you that would make you a more satisfied customer?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. What could LinkedIn do for you to make you a more satisfied customer?
Actually, I would like to turn around the question and more of like get advice, if that's okay for you.
Yes, I think that's the same question. Yeah.
As a startup with like 10 people, trying to build we are still a Korean company, but with a focus, we are focused on the expansion into Europe right now. So with this in mind, what would be your go-to advice for me? Also keeping in mind that we are from a really outdated, old, fragmented kind of industry, what would be advice for me?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we spoke about it as well, being in a very different market as compared to the number of members. I think one of the things that we can definitely do is bring in a lot of intelligence from our existing success stories in this industry, because this is a very different industry, and the kind of talent that you will attract, or probably the kind of culture that you'll be building, will be very different. I enjoyed a conversation with what you're doing in your organization by bringing expats as well, and it's always a difficult thing to build that culture within the organization, but given our experience, and we have a lot of clients in this market now, given our experience, we can definitely share on and connect you with industry leaders on how they navigated this space. Obviously, there is data and insights at the back end to support you in finding these people in US, which we can connect offline, but there's a lot of intelligence that we can bring through our community as well.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And do you have, I know that in Europe we have what they call a startup liaison officer, which is basically, it's very difficult to get hold of them, because obviously you can't contact every startup, but that they will literally send someone out to spend either a half a day or a day with you. And it's almost like a pro bono sort of thing. It probably doesn't make economic sense to do it, but it's the sense of if you do something for somebody in the beginning, as they grow, they will develop you. So, do you have like startup? Could you send somebody to Dominic's office for half a day or something like that to try and make them familiar with the power tools?
No, absolutely. I think my team is also here today. We are all based in Singapore, but we travel to Seoul once in a month for sure. Definitely, that's a possibility. And another thing that we are doing when it comes to startups, I think the Korean government is all about startups going global at this moment. So what we are also trying to build is working with the SMEs, Ministry of SMEs, and see how we can support the startup community in a far better manner, because this is a community in its own way, and if we can add value to it, then why not? Because in different parts of the globe, we are working with the government. So absolutely, yes, the team's here and we can do that.
Yeah, it's true. So we're in the final 5 minutes. So I always like to finish with two things. One is a sort of a look to the future. Any announcements you want to make, any things that are coming up that you want to promote or anything like that. You absolutely, business is all about telling. If you have a new product coming out, you should have your moment to describe it. And then I also sort of give you the option also of maybe like a personal thing. Is there any kind of books you've read or documentaries you've watched, or even any sort of like productivity tips that later that you find are really useful that might be good? So those are anything coming up you want to promote, and any content you've been doing, or any productivity tips. One of those three, or all three, in fact, if you like.
No, fantastic. I think where we are at this moment, we just got back from US in July, and there has been a massive announcement on Microsoft investment in LinkedIn. And in Microsoft, we call it Copilot. At LinkedIn, we say AI. At LinkedIn, I always say again, AI as a word, but what LinkedIn can do with AI is phenomenal. And more than happy to have a chat, and anybody wants to understand in what we are doing, because we are bringing AI right at a consumer level on the platform to organizations, leveraging in a manner wherein they get smarter suggestions. Like you spoke about salaries. We don't have salaries in this region, but we can bring you insights which is even more powerful in terms of salaries and define the future.
So everyone Copilot, okay? If you meet him, and you better know your Copilot. And the other things, productivity tips, or any books you're reading, or any documentaries you watch that particularly
I'm actually not a reader. I don't read much, but I think a recent documentary that I saw was very personal, not with the work, was Federer's Last 12 Days. I think I found it beautiful in what it
could
takes.
you just repeat that?
Federer's Last 12 Days of Roger Federer. So I think it's on Amazon Prime. It just blew my mind in terms of what a person looks on the stage and what goes behind in terms of preparation. And I think that's what it takes in jobs as well. We need to put the best foot forward and always be upskilling, because that's what they do. But wonderful if you have not seen it.
Okay, announcements. What's coming up in the packative world?
Yeah, so we are working with one of the leading packaging companies in Europe together, and we are working on a market entry into the European market. So I hope this all works out by early next year, middle of next year, to have our first prototype out there. And this will be super exciting and a totally new chapter for us to enter a new market in such a big market at the same time. So we are really, really excited for it. And at the same time, the second product that we're actually building right now, and we have been researching for quite some time already, it's called DAY1 AI, and this is like a generative AI tool to build packaging design. So right now, everything is like template driven, and you have to have all of this knowledge, and this is basically gone with our solution, so you can really be a professional designer without any design experience.
You can come by Madrid, and we're happy to host you, and bring a few people, and if you're open to that. And the other two things I asked you were like documentaries, books, and also the productivity tips. Are you cold plunging and journaling and gratituding and all of those things?
Yeah. So productivity tips. As we talked quick before, it has been a lot of firefighting these days, a lot of hands-on on all of this different kind of tasks that I have to manage, and I tried to figure really out, and this was more of like YouTube content on what is the best way to go for it. For me, the best thing works right now is time boxing, and by far this is the best thing. I also use a AI calendar kind of tool that automatically rearrange my tasks, which makes me so much more efficient, and at the same time also gives me some time in between to take a breath and take some time, and yeah.
I mean, both of you are CEOs, and I was speaking just yesterday to someone who was recently announced as a CEO, and he was just asking me for advice, because I've been a CEO in the past, for like what it's like to be, and I was like, it's people think like becoming a CEO is not going to change me, and I'm like, no, it should change you. You have a different responsibility. No one's in for that humble stuff. Like, no, that's that shouldn't be the way that people rely on you as the arbiter of last resort. You have to change things about, and that if you become the bottleneck for an organization, you will kill the organization. So while we all like to think of ourselves as humble and all that kind of things, if you want to be humble, don't become a CEO. CEO is someone who has to provide clarity within the organization and not become a bottleneck. So things that we might be suspicious of in terms of like time boxing and things like that, I'm sorry, but there's a responsibility of every CEO to find a way to be efficient and things like that. So it just remains out of time to thank you both sincerely. Thank you first to Kunal, and wish you the best of luck with everything. Continued success in growing LinkedIn in Asia. And then also thank you, Dominic. As a co-founder, the world needs entrepreneurs, and I've traveled that journey myself, and it's not easy, and it's whenever I find an entrepreneur, I always congratulate them. You probably could have stayed with your corporate job and things like that, but it's great that you've done that. So thank you to both of you for being with us in South Summit, Korea at Deep Tech and AI. My name is Joe Haslam, professor at IE Business School, and it's been an absolute pleasure to moderate this panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.